Steven Gerrard and Steve McManaman still simmering after that Liverpool defeat. Before the game, I asked you if we were at crisis point with Liverpool, Steve, and you said it was more of a rut at the moment, but are we getting closer to that now?
It was actually your word. You said rut.
You agreed with it, though.
But listen, each defeat, especially in the manner of the defeat, you become closer to the crisis. I don't like using that, because a crisis to me is a club that needs years to get back to the top. I don't think Liverpool are at that point at all. They've still got magnificent players. This is a squad, or the majority of the squad, that won the league 4 months ago. So I think crisis is too strong.
Even when you're on your worst run since 1953?
No, that's not good enough. There's no excuses for that at this football club. I think everyone knows that.
Yeah.
But crisis is a very strong word and disrespectful to some of the players that have delivered for this football club, and for the manager that's delivered three months ago. If this was 6 months down the line, a year down the line, and we're further away from that success, then maybe you can use a word like that. But I won't use that word just yet. But you can't deny that this team is struggling massively. They're on a terrible run. Confidence is at an all-time low. And they just keep bleeding. They keep conceding goals. They're wide open. And unless the manager can find answers and stability in the team, it's going to continue.
Let's look at the goals that they conceded tonight, Macca, because there was a lot of the similar issues that we've seen with individual errors, conceding goals too easily. But it started so badly, didn't it, on the 4th minute?
Yes.
With a bizarre handball from Virgil van Dijk.
Yeah, and as I mentioned at half-time, Virgil is the only man who can tell you what made him put his arm in the air, whether he was getting held, whether he felt he was trying to fob shotting off the defender and his arms shot up in the air. So yes, it was a penalty as far as I'm concerned, no problem at all. But actually, I had a problem with the 3 goals after that more than that, because Liverpool got themselves back into the game. It was a handball, Perisic sticks it away, fine. It was the 3 after that were really, really disappointing, because Liverpool went in at half-time and were on top in the game, and you just felt they'd come out attacking the Kop, they'd get the winner, or they'd get 3. The fact that there was nothing in the second half was the really disappointing part. Perisic smacks it past Amardashvili, no chance at all, and they took a deserved lead at this moment in time, very early on in the game, and Liverpool are chasing yet again.
So 3rd penalties conceded this season, Stevie. The issue is players who delivered last season in that title-winning campaign, experienced players who've been here a long time, not hitting those heights.
I think when you're in this moment, it doesn't rain, it pours. You know, and everything seems to be going against them. Virgil was complaining about that incident, but I think when he looks at it back, yes, there was a small impediment on his left hand, but maybe not enough to give such a clear handball away. And as Marcus said, it wasn't an ideal start, but Liverpool were excellent from that point in the character, getting back into the game, and they were really strong to half-time. I'm thinking at half-time they're going to come out second half, more of the same, get the second goal and then go and win the game comfortable. I didn't think PSV were that good in the first half, but the opposite happened. I thought PSV come out, they were excellent, so man, comfortable, they raised their game. And they went on and dominated the game from that on. And
the second goal that they conceded, you two weren't happy with Mo Salah or Kirkes.
Listen, it doesn't matter whether it's Mo Salah or anyone. You can't get beaten a dribble in a 1v1 across the pitch, especially in this situation. And Kirkes, to me, he's out of position for the majority of the game. It's criminal to be on that side of the attacker. You have to be on the inside. You know, you look at it here, yes, Mo can do better in the 1v1. You can't get beaten the dribble. OK, Liverpool try and recover, but if you just pause that there now on that pass, Kirkes has to be the other side of the attacker, because he gives himself no chance to get in a position to make a challenge.
Yeah, Mo has to get across, use another couple of yards, body shape, get your body shape correct, and then you usher the left back towards his own goal. But the fact is, he ran onto him and he was square onto him. And I thought the left back was excellent tonight, by the way, and he just shuffled his shoulders and he's gone. And Mo Salah can't do anything. If Mo comes towards the white line now and shows him backwards, but he doesn't, he fronts him on, and it's very easy for the left back to go past him. Kirkes doesn't do anything to influence this now. He's in position, is he? No, he's not in position. He doesn't stop and play him offside because he can see across the line. He runs with him, but he doesn't even get a tackle in. So what's the point? He might as well have been free. You know, you'd have to influence the ball, you have to influence the passage of play. He can see the guy, he doesn't get goal side of him, he doesn't play him offside, he just gets close. Close is not good enough.
Should Mo Salah still be starting?
Well, what's the other option?
Yeah.
Maybe Chiesa, give him a goal from the start.
I think he's been more of an impact player, and I think it's maybe sends the wrong message to everyone that's watching the football club at the moment. They're in a real difficult moment. He's a senior player, he's your vice captain, he's been your talisman, he's been an absolute iconic figure here for some. That doesn't mean he should start every single game, but whoever is managing Liverpool right now would pick Mo Salah, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yes, OK, you can take him off the pitch or rest him, but in this moment, Liverpool need all the good players on the pitch to try and find some kind of stability.
And also, they've got so many injuries to so many personnel that he probably needs to play. I mean, Rio Ingamo was only young. You wouldn't put him in now when they're struggling. I'm the same as Stephen. If it's Salah or Chiesa, I pick Salah all the time. I think Chiesa's an impact player, I really do. It looks as if, we don't know how Ekitike is, but it looks as if he's got an injury now, whether it's a hamstring injury, but that didn't look good. So actually, Liverpool are down to their bare bones now. The two full-backs are still out and don't know when they're going to come back. So Konate's not having the best time. He's been dragged off twice very early on. So the manager's got some hard thoughts. And when you looked at the bench tonight, it wasn't the strongest of benches, wasn't it, that you'd go to? So you can't just say, oh, I'd drop him for a mistake. Of course you can't. You can't act like that. You have to act in the bigger interests of the club. Van Dijk made a mistake. You can't just say, I would drop him. So the fact that Salah didn't get back to that position, there was still a lot for the left-back to do for them to score the goal. But we're nitpicking on every single thing because it's magnified, because they've been battered against
when it's repeated incidents, I guess, then it becomes more of an issue, doesn't it?
Yeah,
because
but it's
not
Mo Salah
just
initially, because we go back far enough. And then it's Kerkez at the end. You know, you want your defender to be in the right position and his body in the right position to stop that wonderful ball from the left-back. But we go back to say, well, Mo should have done this, and that will always happen in games. But you expect more from them. It was far too easy to score the goal, and that was, you know, a vitally important goal, wasn't it? The second.
Well, you mentioned Konate as well. Let's look at.
Well, only because we mentioned it before the game for the Nottingham Forest game.
Yeah, I mean, look, he does well initially with the first ball. If we don't win the second ball, just clear the ball. Just empty it. Get the team back in shape. You know, you can't make a mistake of that magnitude at 2-1. You know, and then they get a bit of luck with the strike off the post, and then it's game over from that moment.
Just too easy, Macca.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've got to do the basics very well, especially when the team's having a tough time, things are going against you, confidence is a bit low. Just do the basics well. Yeah. Put your foot to do that, your size 12, bang, right down the pitch, and then we'll worry about it later.
We'll stick it in Rosette, and you know what, we'll get back, we'll recover, we're 2-1 down, we'll regroup and we'll move on from there. But it's too quick after, you know, him speaking at the French national team about his contract, the stories about his contract, that he makes a mistake against Nottingham Forest, and then he's played tonight and he's made another huge mistake, and then the manager's dragged him off. The manager's dragged him off and put a midfielder back there when they've got a midfielder at right back. And this just exacerbates the whole situation. They're all over the place here because they're gambling.
You gamble and putting bodies forward, but again, the ball's getting given away on the edge of the box. There's no counter-press, and Kerkez again is out of position. So, you know, the counter-attack, Liverpool are wide open, pass down the side of the centre-halves. The midfield, who've all gambled, is non-existent, and it's an easy pass into your goal. But that goal's not the problem, because you're risking, you're putting bodies forward. The game's already done. The problem is goal 2 and goal 3, and it's the same thing. Individual mistakes, the art of defending, doing the basics well, winning duels, doing the bit for the team. Liverpool have got big issues in that department.
And how big a problem is it now that we look at the situation they're in, that they didn't get that Mark Gay transfer over the line in the summer?
As Macca said, you know, these isolated things in conversation and debates will all be magnified. The young kid Leone, who looked a really good player, got a big injury early in the season. You know, has the squad got enough balance to cope with injuries? Or, but of course, you'd love Mark Gui there at the moment. He'd walk into that team.
Arne, can you sum up your emotions for us right now after that defeat?
Nah, that's always, and last week's every time the same question. Yeah, the emotions are very negative and disappointing. After, I'm looking at the screen now, I see the way we conceded 1-0. But I have to be, I want to be positive about the reaction of the players after we went 1-0 down, because I think till half-time we played a very good game. After another disappointment, we came back into the game. I think we had enough chances maybe to go 2-1 up. And at half-time, I don't think anyone would have expected us to lose this game 4-1.
What did Virgil say just on that penalty? Because he seemed very unhappy at the awarding of it, feeling that he'd been fouled.
I think he got a little push, and that's I think what I saw, what he wanted to say to the referee. That little push unbalanced him, that's why he raised his arm and made the handball. But yeah, I don't think the VAR will ever overturn a small push like that.
Like you said, that the reaction to that and then managing to get yourself level, did you feel at that point that you had the capabilities and even the chances thereafter to go on and turn this game around?
Yeah, we did till half-time, and then after half-time we conceded quite early the 2-1, where I think after us conceding the 2-1 we still had a few good chances to go 2-2, but yeah, then 10-15 minutes before the end I think conceded another goal, and yeah, hard to take.
Mm-hmm. How do you combat the fragility that seems to set in when you do concede and obviously have to try and recover in matches?
Yeah, that's not always easy, but that's why I say after we conceded the first one, I think we saw the reaction I want to see, and it's not easy because we lost, of course, in the weekend, big loss, and then after 3 minutes going 1-0 down. So the mentality I saw afterwards was as you were hoping it to be, but it's not always so easy if you had so many disappointments. Even after the 2-1, I think we kept trying. We were close to scoring the 2-2. But yeah, end result is 4-1, and that's of course another big loss.
You knew exactly what PSV were going to bring to this game, but would you say with the way the game unfolded there was a difference in the way the teams reacted mentally and physically to situations?
You're talking about us now, or?
Yeah.
I don't exactly understand. Can you ask one more time?
Just the way PSV played and the way they reacted, you know, in the transition, they were very fast. But do you think there was a difference between the way Liverpool players reacted in the transition?
I liked the way we reacted in transition in the first half a lot. I think almost every time we won the ball back, we could keep them on their half almost all the time. And there were parts of the second half that we weren't able to, especially the start of the second half. It felt, I constantly felt, what's wrong with Hugo? It felt as if he couldn't move as he did the first half, so that's why our press was, I think, also a little bit off. And he just told me that, yeah, in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the first half, he already felt his back too much. That's also why he had to go out. But not that it's only about him, but we couldn't bring the same, in the first 5 to 10 minutes, the same power in our pressing as we did in the first 45.
It's another game conceding, 3 goals or more now, the third one in a row. I know we spoke yesterday and you said, you were trying to find solutions. Where do you go from here now, ahead of another huge game at the weekend?
The only way to go is to go through now. And what I mean with that is, yeah, we just have to face where we are in and fight really hard, and would be nice if we don't every time get this knock of a goal we concede, because it's not only conceding a goal, it's also the feeling, I think, at least the feeling I have, and I think the players will probably have the same in our fans as well, that after 45 minutes you don't expect to be 1-1, you expect to be up, and instead of being up 5 minutes after half time, again we concede, or 10 minutes, I don't know exactly, but so yeah, that's hard, but like I said, the reaction of the players, especially in the first half and after the 2-1, was the reaction you expect from a Liverpool player. But yeah, I said it many times now, end result is 4-1.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Arne Slot looking very dejected, as you'd expect, but he did feel, as you guys did, that they played well in the first half, certainly after the first 5 minutes conceding that first goal. How do you then explain what happened in the second half when it felt like the momentum was with them to go on and win the game?
I think it's very difficult to explain, because the capitulation in the second half was so noticeable. It was as if they just, once the second goal went in, they just couldn't recover, they couldn't get back in shape, and they looked more and more open. You see, Perisic had a shot just after the second goal where he volleys it into the ground. It could have been worse earlier. So they need to have this mentality that when they are struggling a little bit, that they get back, they get into a shape, and for the first 10-15 minutes they're difficult to play through. I thought they were very easy to play through today. I thought they were slow from the goalkeeper out, I thought they allowed PSV to close them down at times instead of going longer a couple of times. I just thought they made it a lot easier for them. Sometimes you have to go against your principles and turn the opposition round and get further up the field. But I just thought they were too open at times in the second half, and they started gambling far earlier than they probably should have.
The Frankfurt game is the only game where they've gone behind and actually gone on to win it this season. Why do you think that resilience isn't there, or the ability to kind of respond to setbacks in games?
I think confidence is an issue at the moment. They had a real big moment, 2-1 down with the Gakpo header. And I think if you score that at the Kop end, changes confidence, belief, momentum within the game. That miss and then conceding the third, it's almost like Liverpool are not going to get back in the game from there, because I don't think people are coming off the bench and having the impact either to help the team, but that's a huge moment. You know, if that goes in there, you make it 2-2, the atmosphere in the ground changes, you're kicking towards the Kop end, you're still creating enough. You know, again, that's an half-decent chance. It wasn't a penalty, what the crowd was singing for, but it's a great cross by Salah, but these are the moments that are not going in Liverpool's favour at the moment. And then when they're giving balls away or in transition, because they're gambling and taking a lot of risk with personnel and putting bodies ahead of the ball, they've won. And
no one had envisaged, Stephen, the Canate mistake, would they, for the third? You know, at 2-1, they're still in the game, they're making chances, they're attacking. PSV are holding on and hoping for the counter-attack. And then you're almost given the goal, aren't you? The Canate mistake was a huge mistake, to go 3, and the air was just sucked out of Anfield when the third one went in. It was almost as if, right, that's it, it's gone. People got up and were leaving, they'd seen enough. And I think that just exacerbated then the players start gambling even more, the clock starts ticking, you can see the clock in the corner, and then they're piling forwards, and then they leave themselves really open at the back. I've seen that in the past. You know, you don't like them conceding 4, but I know why they conceded the 4th. It was the goal 2 and 3 which affected the game really.
The desperation to try and make amends for the result, but the damage was already done.
When we were here before the Villa game, you both said that questions about Arne Slot's position was nonsense at that point. But do you think now, as this run is continuing, his position should come under some serious scrutiny now? Well,
that's the world we live in. That's football in the modern day. I've been in that position myself, and you understand if you are not getting the results required from the demand at whatever club you're at, there's going to be serious questions asked. There's going to be stewards' inquiry in different areas. That comes with the territory. That's life. Especially at the top end. I personally
think it's far too early to what he's achieved last year and where he is now at this year. That is a good run of fixtures. You know, again, Liverpool are not playing well enough.
I agree with that, Macca, from me and you, because we've lived through it. We've suffered. We've suffered, and I've been on both sides, player and management. So it's not me, but it's going to come.
Yeah, I understand the question completely, but with those run of fixtures, and Liverpool are still in the Champions League and are still fighting in the Champions League, I think it's far too early to come up with a question like that.
So you're saying they would have to go out of the Champions League for that to happen?
No, I think they'd have to go out of the Champions League and be wallowing near the bottom of the league. You know, I think the question, you should ask me that question, I said early on before the game. I think they play Arsenal second week of Jan, I think, round about then. That's when the question should be asked. They're halfway through the season to a certain extent. Hopefully, you know, they'll have climbed the table. And I also I think you have to give them time for some of the signings that have been injured constantly since they had. A lot of them have been signings that you expected to come in and lift the team. And if anything, they've detracted from the team because they haven't been available. They look lopsided at times. So I think it's far too early to ask a manager that question when he's achieved so much in such a small space of time. But I do understand in the world we live in that question will be bandied around.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I asked you that question prematurely. Some tough games coming up.
Liverpool fans will say yes. If you ask plenty of them outside, they'll probably go yes.
As well in the Champions League.
Taking the heat off Newcastle, aren't you?
2 very tough games.
Well, he seems calm and rational, but that tells you everything, really. The worst run since the early 50s, since before the late, great Bill Shankly. Welcome, by the way, to viewers from TNT Sports 2 and 3. Dire is the last word, and up to Joe's post. And, I mean, it's the old definition of insanity, isn't it? Argument. You cannot keep doing the same thing and hoping for a different outcome. And that's what's happening at the moment, the same outcome.
What he's trying to do, he's trying to think of his best team in 11 on paper. But it's not working because the playing the majority of them a single week.
Yeah.
There's options you can make. You can play Gravenberch at centre-back, take Konate out the firing line, Endo in midfield, but you're starting to clutch a little bit. He's starting to become massively under pressure because if you're a manager of Liverpool, Barca, Bayern, Real Madrid, you cannot have this record from defending champions into losing nearly every single game that you play. 16 goals conceded in 7 games. I mean, I don't know where it ends for him because I was convinced to win the game tonight. I just thought, away from the Premier League after the defeat against Forest, they'd put the Champions League head on, and they've been in pretty good form, that they'd turn it around tonight and get a win and then carry some sort of momentum into the West Ham game. Now losing that, the next 2 games in the Champions League is Inter Milan away in San Siro and Marseille in the Velodrome. I mean, the mistake from Van Dijk early on is horrendous.
Yeah. Manager didn't really let him off the hook either, did he? He said, he thought it was a slight push. What are you doing with your arm in the air?
Yeah, it's an extraordinary penalty to give away. I'm not sure that I've ever seen one like that. But Slot is right. Liverpool did respond well, Don. We said it during the game, didn't we? That they were intense and they were assertive and they deserved the equaliser. And to be honest, they probably should have gone into half-time ahead. They had more than enough chances. But then once again, it takes one ball, a brilliant ball from Mauro.
What's Konate doing in this position?
Yeah.
He just stands, the line drops, he stands, and that creates gaps. And I mean, the ball,
again.
inch perfect. Konate, the misjudges the bounce, and it's just poor defending, isn't it?
Well,
it's not just Konate, because even Van Dijk in that, you know, he's got stop the shot.
And you can say individual player error, so the manager can't account for that.
Van Dijk again here.
Van Dijk can run harder than that.
But you are picking the same players to make those mistakes,
well, also,
aren't you?
And Don and Farrell will correct me on this, but I always think if the individual errors keep happening, there comes a point where that's systemic, and that's on the manager. Ultimately, and Slot is showing no signs of being able to kind of solve those problems, and that is a real issue.
When you look at that bench tonight, and it's no excuse, it's a weak bench, and Arne Slot said at the start of the season, we're not as strong as what people think they are, Liverpool, in terms of the players that they've lost. Now, that is, I mean, it's factual, but at the same time, you've got to spend £450 million in the summer. This team should be performing a hell of a lot better than they are. And some individuals now, you're starting to see some individuals start to go under. And this is big boys football now where you've got to stand up now. And if you're on the bench like Joe Gomez, you've got to knock on the manager's door and Endo, and you're not going to manager's door and say, I want to play against West Ham. I want to play. I want to prove to you that I'm good enough. And at least the manager will quite like that, the fact that they're willing to knock on his door. Because some of the personnel in the start 11 are nowhere near it. And it's becoming contagious. They look all over the place. As Rory said before, when it went to 1-1, Liverpool were by far the best team. But as soon as they went 2-1 behind and 3-1 behind, it was embarrassing how it could have been 4 or 5. Was 4, could have been 5 or 6. Yeah. They'd just gone under.
You know why I look, Don? You think back to when Mane was there and they lost him, and you was like, who's going to replace him? And they brought Diaz in. Mane was, in my opinion, in terms of that aggressive press that Liverpool had, he was the player that initiated that. And when they lost that, you thought, where's that going to come from? And they replaced him with Diaz, who did exactly the same. I thought he initiated it, and with the ball and scores and contributes. They haven't replaced that. They've lost that press in their front line. I look at the front three, there's no... Exactly.
Diogo Jota.
Exactly. And they haven't replaced it.
No.
It's a very...
And that's difficult for them.
It's a very uncomfortable conversation when we talk Diogo Jota, because I just know from what I would be like, very emotional, I'd be struggling big time. And I don't know how you explain it if you're Arne Slot, because he's trying to manage the football club, he's trying to manage his players. At the same time, he's still grieving a little bit. He can look at his players and have the conversation and look into their eyes, and maybe Mo Salah's struggling. They're all probably struggling. And it's just an uncomfortable conversation as a footballer when you're going through such a bad time and it's so horrendous. Not just the football, I mean horrendous being away from the pitch, when you've got to try and... I heard Andy Robertson talk after the Scotland game. Glorious night for Scotland going to the World Cup.
Sure.
First person he mentioned was Jota, and he was in tears, he was in bits. Said, I thought about him every single day. And it's a very hard conversation to have, I would imagine, from Arne Slot to his group of players, how they try and respond.
And I think it was interesting that Robertson talked about Jota in the context, 1, of a win, and 2, with Scotland. It wasn't a kind of Liverpool are struggling, so we need to talk about this, because I think they're conscious, and Slot said this openly.
It doesn't become
He will not use Jota's death as an excuse. No. We should, as a culture, be mature enough to say They are clearly grieving. They will be grieving. They should be grieving. Grief is an extremely complex thing. The problem is, and I think we can all, as humans, understand that they're finding it incredibly difficult to go into the workplace where they are reminded of their friend who so shockingly died in the summer. The industry they're in doesn't permit what most of us in most walks of life get to have, which is a bit of time and space and privacy, and also, to be perfectly honest, to phone it in for a bit. If you're really not in the right headspace in a lot of jobs, you can turn up, do your work, and go home. That doesn't work like that for footballers. It applies to Slot as much as the players. Slot is grieving. How does anybody in that situation kind of tally their needs as people with the demands of elite athletes? And I mean, I don't have an answer to that question, but that is the challenge they're facing. And whether Slot can go to the players. I mean, Don, if a manager comes to you and said...
I think it's difficult. You mentioned it before, Don. As the players, as much as they have a job to do, and that's the kind of mentality that sports people have. You know, whether it be injuries, whether it be grieving, they have the mentality of, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to...
If you ask a player if they're injured, they'll tell you no, because they want to play.
Exactly, and it's the same in this.
If I got asked that question and I was one of the Liverpool players now, my response would be, I'm really struggling, but I'm willing to fight on. And I want you to play me. And I'm going to try my best. And then it's like, it's just so hard. I don't know how you measure it.
Well,
I don't.
This is...
I'm feeling emotional talking about it.
It's an inextricable part of this dilemma that they are in. However, they have to find a way forward, don't they? Both on that level, but also on the football pitch. Will he be allowed to lead them to better times on a Slot? He is a man under extreme pressure now.
Yeah, he's definitely under pressure. You look at the defeats that they've had in recent games, not good enough for a Liverpool team, and certainly not, Premier League champions. But I think maybe they could use that grief and find a way, and maybe through psychologists and whatever, as a team collectively, to drive them on, because that's what Jota would want, the type of person he was anyway, and what you hear about him, and how the teammates speak about him. That should be a driver in itself. And yes, it's massively difficult for them, but to turn it round, can they spin it and try and use it in that way, maybe, to try and get them back, because they need to do something.
I think if you're Virgil van Dijk, I think what you do now, and I've been in that scenario many a time, I would imagine Virgil van Dijk will call a players' meeting in without any coaching staff whatsoever, no manager, no coaches. You've probably been in the same situation. And you just talk about all the problems that you're facing, everything that you're going through, and you'll try and solve it.
What you can, right?
You'll solve as much as you can. But let's just get a little bit of anger out inside the dressing room. If you've got to have an argument with your mate Canate and vice versa, and you've got to have an argument with guys in front of you and let them come back to you. And sometimes when you have a massive argument behind the scenes with no manager, no coach, you can get it all out your system. And then you have to somehow, as we said before, focus on the next game, and that's West Ham.
But they did that, I think, after the United defeat, and it didn't work. I mean, what's strangest about this run of games for Liverpool is that Real Madrid performance, which was genuinely excellent, and now looks like a total outlier.
Yeah.
I guess the issue is, I think in a lot of different clubs, Liverpool pride themselves on being very cool-headed, very rational. Arne Slot won the Premier League in May. There is a lot of credit in the bank, not least because of the circumstances that he's operating in. But Liverpool's still a football club, and their run of form is bad, and it's getting worse. And that does put him under a huge amount of pressure.